Hello class. I'm going to show you a bunch of examples on using standard string. Just some useful stuff that you will probably use in your projects and assignments. The first thing I'm going to do, I started with the Hello World program. Now I'm going to modify it by declaring a new string, my string, and I'm going to assign the value Mr. Britton to it. And I'm going to print it out. This is something you've done many times, I hope. Compile and run, and there you see Mr. Britton printed out. The next thing I want to show you is that you can access any character in the string using an index, just like an array. Just like arrays, the indexes start at 0, so the first character is at 0 and the last character is at the length of the string -1. So you saw the first character was capital M. Now I'm printing out a character that's out of bounds. You don't want to do this. You see the program crashes, so watch out for that. I'm writing down that I'm going to print it out in reverse order, but I'm not actually going to do that yet. We'll get to that in a minute. Erase, erase. I'm going to show you how to determine the length of your string. So the string class actually has a function called length, and it'll tell you how many characters are in the string. So you access that by just typing the name of your variable and then .length and brackets, and that will tell you how long this string is. 12 characters. Now I'm going to show you how to print out a string in reverse order. Start by creating a for loop, and we're going to iterate over starting at index 0 all the way to the last index, which actually is the length of the string -1, because we're starting at 0 and not at 1. Okay, so I'm going to print out each character one at a time, and I'm not going to put an end of line character so that they'll all appear in the same line. And then at the end I'll print an end of line character. If I run this, oh, it just printed Mr. Britton again. So I didn't do it in reverse order, I just did it in the normal order. Now, what I need to do is start at the last character, which is the length of the string -1, and then for each index I'm going to subtract off the current index. So it starts at 12, actually it would start at 11, then 10, then 9, then 8, all the way down to 0, and print each character in reverse order. Now I'm going to show you how to use substrings. And a substring is just a part of the string. It can be the entire string, it can be the first character, it can be the two characters in the middle. Any sequence of characters out of the string is called a substring. So in this example I'm going to show you how to print out the first two characters, and the function of string that lets you do this is called substr, so it's an abbreviation of substring. I'm going to start at index 0 and I'm going to get a substring of length 2. So that is the first two characters, Mr. I'm going to copy and paste that. modify it a little. I'm going to print out the last two characters. Now if I want the last two characters, the index of the second last character would be the length of my string minus 2. You might think, oh, we started at 0, so it's minus 3. Well, oops, no, that's not right. Change that to a minus 2. There we go. We got the last two characters. Alright, the next example is going to just print out a few characters from the middle of the string. I think that index 4 is the start of my last name. I'm going to try printing out 1,000 characters. Okay, so substring actually handles that correctly. It just prints as much as it can and then stops, instead of going to 1,000 characters. Change it to a 5, and I'm taking 5 characters out of the middle of my string. B-R-I-T-T. Now I'm going to show you how to do some string comparisons. We've done this before, but I'll show it to you again in case it's not clear. I'm going to compare my string to goats. Now, if the two strings are equal, the compare function will return 0, and if they're not, if the strings are not equal, then it'll return some other number which is not 0. So if my string is not the same as goats, then Mr. Britain is not goats will get printed out. And if those strings are equal, then Mr. Britain is goats. Compile and run. Mr. Britain is not goats. Woot. Try one more comparison. I'm going to show you how substring kind of works. The function substring actually returns a new string, and then you can do operations on that string, and you can do it before you even assign it to another variable. So I'm going to grab a substring of my string, and then that will return a string, and on that string I can do operations again. So now I can do .compare. Now we saw before that this particular substring returned BRITT, so now I'm going to just try this out. Now if you notice, I made a mistake in my syntax there. Actually, it wasn't a syntax error, it was a semantic error. I forgot to compare the result of compare to 0. So this is going to be unpredictable. Who knows what? It didn't print it out, even though it should have. So I have to go back in and put my comparison operator in there. Yep, pure magic. Okay, now I'll show you how to concatenate strings. And appending or concatenating just means adding characters to the end of the string. So we'll start with my string, and we're going to plus equals. We've seen this before with numbers, but in this case it's going to add on to the end of the string. We're going to concatenate is super cool onto the end of our string and print it out. compile and run. Mr. Britton is super cool. One more new thing to demonstrate. Going to show you how to insert a string into the middle of another string. So in this example, I'm going to insert something after Mr. and before Britton, and the index of the start of Britton is at index 4. So I'm going to add in banana head in caps because it's a title. And we'll see what it prints out. Mr. Banana Head Britton is super cool. Ain't it the truth? And I'm gonna write the link down here for the full documentation. You can browse around this website if you're interested in any other C++ functionality. But that's the documentation for string. And one more thing that might be helpful on your next assignment, on assignment 2, Mad Libs. I'm just going to show you how to drop off the first and last character of a string using substring. So in the Mad Libs program, you're going to be getting a bunch of strings, and some of them actually represent prompts for the user to input, and those prompts are going to be surrounded by square brackets. But when you go to prompt the user to input something, you're going to want to drop those square brackets off. So here this is printing it out, but we don't want the square brackets, so I'm going to drop off the first and last characters. So we're going to start at index 1, which is the letter A, and I want the entire length of the string minus 2, because I'm going to drop off the opening square bracket and the closing square bracket. There we go. That's how you drop off the first and last character of a string. Now you can assign this to a new variable if you want to save it for later, and you probably will. So I'm going to copy and paste that into a new variable, and then I'll just print it out again to show you that it still is the same thing. Okay, good luck on your Mad Libs assignment. Okay, just one more thing. When I was programming the Mad Libs assignment, I encountered a problem where cin would read input with a space in it, and it would take, say I entered Mr. Britton, it would take Mr. and put it into the first input value, and then Britton and put it in the second input value. So it would just skip the second prompt. That's not what I wanted it to do. I wanted Mr. Britton to be my response to the first input. So I'm going to show you the problem here. I've declared two strings, input 1, input 2. Now I'm going to read both of them in, and then I'm going to print out an empty line to space out between the input and the output, and I'm going to print what was actually read in. Okay, compile and run. I'm going to enter dog cat, which is supposed to be for the first input, but it just read it right in and skipped the second prompt. So what you can do is you can use getLine. The first parameter is the input, where it's going to get the input from, and the second parameter is where it's going to put the input to, and this will not split your input into two because of the space character. So now it didn't skip the second prompt that time, and it entered output both values. So that's the solution to that.